Walking through Jerusalem's ancient streets today, you might notice something fascinating hidden in plain sight. British street names, architectural remnants, and legal frameworks that whisper of a time when this sacred city flew the Union Jack. For 30 years, the British Empire controlled Palestine, and this forgotten chapter changed everything. Picture this, it's 1917, and the Ottoman Empire is collapsing after ruling these lands for 4 centuries. British General Edmund Allenby makes a calculated decision as he enters Jerusalem. He dismounts his horse and walks through the city gates on foot, showing respect for its religious significance. But this humble gesture masks Britain's ambitious plans to reshape the Middle East entirely. That same year brings the Balfour Declaration, a document containing just 67 words that would ignite decades of conflict. Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour promises support for establishing a Jewish national home in Palestine. Here's the explosive part. Nobody consulted the Arab population already living there. Britain essentially wrote a check on someone else's bank account. The League of Nations formalizes British control in 1922, granting them the Palestinian Mandate. Officially, Britain's job is preparing the region for independence. Unofficially, they're running a colonial operation, building infrastructure while maintaining tight control over immigration, land sales, and political movements. British administrators arrive with ambitious plans. They construct roads, establish courts, and introduce modern bureaucracy. Tel Aviv transforms from sand dunes into a bustling city. Jerusalem gets running water and electricity. These improvements sound positive, but they come with strings attached. Every development serves British strategic interests first. Immigration becomes the powder keg. Jewish settlers arrive in waves, purchasing land and establishing communities. Arab Palestinians watch nervously as their demographic majority shrinks. British officials try balancing these competing pressures, but their policies satisfy nobody. Tensions explode in 1936 when Arab Palestinians launch a massive revolt. They demand independence and an end to Jewish immigration. Britain responds with overwhelming force, deploying 40,000 troops and declaring martial law. Villages face collective punishment. Leaders get arrested or executed. The revolt continues for 3 years before being crushed. Meanwhile, Jewish paramilitary groups organize themselves. The Haganah focuses on defense and settlement protection. The more radical Irgun adopts terrorist tactics against both Arabs and British targets. Britain finds itself caught between 2 increasingly militant nationalisms. World War II changes everything. The Holocaust creates unprecedented international sympathy for Jewish survivors seeking refuge. Simultaneously, Britain restricts immigration to prevent further unrest. Ships carrying Holocaust survivors get turned away from Palestinian ports. Refugees end up in detention camps, creating heartbreaking scenes that damage Britain's reputation globally. Jewish militant groups escalate their campaign against British rule. The most shocking attack occurs in 1946 when Irgun bombs the King David Hotel, killing 91 people, including British officials. Public opinion back home turns against the Palestinian commitment as casualty reports mount. By 1947, Britain faces an impossible situation. The empire is crumbling worldwide, with India gaining independence and resources stretched thin. The Palestinian problem drains British treasury and morale. Prime Minister Clement Attlee makes a fateful decision. Hand the mess over to the United Nations. The UN proposes partitioning Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states. Arabs reject the plan, viewing it as rewarding terrorism and ignoring their rights. Jews accept it reluctantly, knowing partition gives them statehood but not their desired borders. Britain announces complete withdrawal by May 1948. The final months bring chaos. British forces pack up decades of infrastructure, while violence erupts between Jewish and Arab communities. The mandatory government essentially abandons its responsibilities, leaving a power vacuum that guarantees war. On May 14, 1948, the last British High Commissioner sails from Haifa harbour. Hours later, David Ben-Gurion declares Israeli independence. Arab armies immediately invade, launching the first Arab-Israeli war. The Palestinian refugee crisis begins as hundreds of thousands flee their homes. Britain's Palestinian experiment ends in comprehensive failure. They promised everything to everyone while delivering nothing to anybody. The partition they avoided implementing becomes reality through warfare rather than negotiation. The refugee problem they helped create continues haunting the region today. Looking back, British policy in Palestine reveals imperial arrogance at its worst. They assumed they could manage ancient ethnic and religious conflicts through administrative efficiency. Instead, they created new grievances while failing to resolve existing ones. The consequences echo through every modern Middle Eastern headline. Israeli-Palestinian conflict, regional instability, and international diplomatic crises all trace back to British mandatory decisions. Understanding this history helps explain why peace remains so elusive. What lessons can we learn from Britain's Palestinian misadventure? Perhaps that external powers cannot impose solutions on indigenous populations. Maybe that promises made to multiple parties without consultation create lasting bitterness. Or simply that imperial hubris inevitably produces unintended consequences. Have you ever wondered how different Middle Eastern history might look if Britain had chosen different policies? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more forgotten chapters only on the Histories Revealed.